After 4 years of waiting, this could be Shonen Jump's next big manga. Ichi the Witch is a new fantasy manga written by Osamu Nishi and drawn by Shiro Usazaki. Nishi is the writer of Iruma-kun, but Usazaki was previously the artist for another weekly Shonen Jump manga by the name of Act Age, a manga that everyone agreed was one of the best manga of its time, and likely would have outshined Oshinoko. Unfortunately, the manga was cut in August of 2020 after the writer was arrested, meaning that Usazaki was suddenly cut from Jump. As a result, Act Age fans have been waiting years for her to make a return to Shonen Jump, which is why when they announced that she would be working with the author of Iruma-kun on a new Jump manga, everyone lost their minds. Naturally, the question you might be wondering is whether this was worth the wait. That's why in this video, I'm going to review Ichi the Witch, discuss why it looks so much like the manga that everyone loved, and explain why I think it will quickly become one of Shonen Jump's most important manga. Now, before we talk about Ichi the Witch and why I love it, we need to talk about Act Age real quick. Because to understand why this manga is so important, you have to understand why Act Age was so important. Act Age came out back in 2018. Unfortunately, I never had the chance to follow the manga back when it was running, but the manga was basically about this girl that became an acting star because of her insane abilities. It was loved by fans, with everyone talking about it every week. It was so popular that there were actually plans to produce a play of the manga before any talk of an anime, which is basically unheard of as far as I know. And again, I can't speak to the story or the writing, but one thing I see again and again is even to this day, people are still praising the art. So going into Ichi the Witch, I kept in mind that there was something special about this art. I just didn't know what it was yet. But I'll explain why it is that Ichi the Witch is so much like Act Age in just a second. Now, like I was saying, everyone, and I mean everyone, loved Act Age. Then the writer was arrested for a disgusting crime that I won't mention, but it's public knowledge at this point. As a result, Usazaki, a young female artist whose work everyone loved, was suddenly cut from Jump for something she had no part in whatsoever. Everyone was devastated when this happened, because they felt like they had lost a rising star in the world of Jump, especially a female artist that was only in her early 20s at the time. Fortunately, Usazaki was able to publish some one-shots and work on some other SHUEISHA projects over the next couple of years. But this wasn't enough. Fans needed her to be given the new spot in Weekly Shonen Jump that she so rightfully deserved. Hence why Ichi the Witch was so heavily anticipated, and why it's currently being watched over very carefully by fans. Now again, I never read Act Age before reading Ichi, but I knew the art was supposed to be good. And as soon as I read the first chapter, there were 3 things about the art that made Ichi the Witch stand out from every other manga I've ever seen. But before I say more on that, make sure to like the video if you're enjoying it so far. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it helps spread the video to other viewers like you. So one thing I will say right off the bat is that the attention to detail in Ichi is amazing. When I look at the first page, I'm instantly reminded of the art in Witch Hat Atelier. That manga is a bit more stylized, but still, Usazaki's detail is beautiful. It may not be drawn in a fantasy sort of style, but there's so much detail in everything that it makes the fantasy world feel real. That's not necessarily a quirk from Act Age, it's just something that consistently stands out in this manga. But there was something else that stood out. And again, I have never read Act Age, so I made sure to confirm this with my good friend Townzie. Say hi to the good people, Townzie.
What up?
Anyway, Townzie confirmed that, in fact, one of the reasons people liked Act Age so much was because of Usazaki's character expressions. And this is something that has stood out to me since chapter 1. For example, if you turn to page 6 of chapter 1, you get this panel of Ichi hunting some kind of moose. Because he's hiding, all you can really see is his eye. Interestingly enough, the eye doesn't really convey any particular emotion. The fact that it's so blank actually leaves it up to the reader. You can say he's emotionless, he's got bloodlust, he's patient, some kind of silent killer, a little scared even. Any of these things fit. And yet all you can actually see is his eye. Contrast that to the next page where you can see Ichi with his little chibi face. And you can see the kind of range that Usazaki has at her disposal. And while we're on the chibi faces, faces, I just want to talk about why I love them so much in this manga. Simple cartoon styles are not hard to draw. At least that's how it seems. The problem is how you make that simple style stand out from everything else. Hence the issue of trying to make a cartoon that doesn't look exactly like Adventure Time or Gravity Falls. This also applies to the subtle art of chibi faces. Anyone can draw them, but there's very few manga where they really feel original. Ichi the Witch is one of those few manga, and I guess it's not so much how they're drawn as much as it is how they're used. For example, at the end of chapter 1, we see another chibi face from Ichi. Now, there's nothing particularly original about this, but something about the absurd contrast between the epic spell Ichi is casting versus his very nonchalant expression makes this panel hilarious to look at. Now, as much as I love the chibi faces and reaction faces, obviously there's more to the character expression. One element that stands out in particular is the eyes. Usually if Ichi is excited or in awe, his eyes will get all big and glow up. But here in chapter 12, he comes across a character, and this time, his eyes form this like black void. So now you get the impression that Ichi is somehow on high alert, and he's wary of this new character. So really, this is what makes the character expressions in Ichi so good. Usazaki knows how to draw faces in a way that instantly conveys strong emotions. In particular, she can do this especially well in the way she draws eyes. Eyes are also a big part of the way she approaches character designs. Ichi has big eyes that express his curiosity and ambition and allow him to switch to this sort of feral mode. Duskmourn, his new partner, is supposed to be this beautiful witch, and you see this right away when you see her big beautiful eyes. You also have this character, Togais, or Toga Ice. Togis? Anyway, she's supposed to be a super serious character, and you can tell right away by her sharp, angled eyes that give off this very aggressive energy. Now, of course, Usazaki also designs the characters with bizarre hairstyles and cool outfits, but the eyes and faces are a bit easier to overlook, so it's especially worth mentioning. Now, I should point out that Usazaki is only the artist. With any duo like this, usually the writer has the idea for the character and at the very least, gives the artist some notes on what they should look like. So in this situation, I do have to give credit to the creativity of Nishi since they likely give notes for the characters as well as come up with basic storyboarding. Speaking of which, I also need to mention the paneling in this manga. Typically, I'm not a big fan of when mangaka go for like the crazy paneling, but Usazaki does a really nice job of mixing things up with the paneling and sequencing. One example that I really like is this page from chapter 4. Ichi is drawn at an angle so that you have a perspective that adds to the feeling of Ichi jumping all over the place. And this is further enhanced by the way he bends into the rest of the panels and how he takes up most of the spread. Again, can't say how much or how little Nishi contributes to this part, but it looks great regardless. And clearly everything looks great in this manga. It's not often that I can say I love the characters and the paneling in a manga, but like I've been saying, Ichi the Witch is one of those few manga. And it's because of this art that fans of Usazaki can finally enjoy a brand new Jump series from one of their favorite artists. It's still pretty early, but the characters are already amazing. Duskmourn is a great character because she's supposed to be this elegant elite, but she's full of pride and often lets her arrogance get the best of her. This creates a hilarious dynamic between her and Ichi because he's like a big kid that just wants to jump and play, and she's like the big sister that got stuck babysitting him. You also have Kumagi, a younger witch that's shy and doubts her own abilities but is very knowledgeable in magic. So there's this interesting dynamic where Ichi can start fires and hunt his own dinner but doesn't know magic, while Kumagi is a nervous wreck but knows what she's talking about and can actually teach Ichi. And then of course you have Ichi himself. And I really like Ichi for a couple of reasons. He does have that good boy energy of characters like Deku and Tanjiro, and he also has that ambition you so often find in shonen protagonists. But what's interesting about Ichi is the way his background in hunting influences his character. He has this philosophy where he doesn't want to hurt animals, but he'll kill even a tiny little rabbit if he senses a serious threat, something he usually refers to as death for death. And this philosophy has led to some really great interactions with all of the magical beasts. or magics, especially the new character we just met, but I'll spare you the spoilers on that for now. Hopefully what I have shown you is more than enough to get you started on this manga. Clearly it was well worth the 4-year-long wait. Fans have been waiting for Usazaki to make a proper return to Weekly Shonen Jump, and as a new fan, I don't think this could be any better. The detail is amazing, the art is gorgeous, and the characters give this manga a reading experience unlike any other. So if you're not reading Ichi the Witch now, then you'll definitely want to start soon. Not only is it something fans waited nearly half a decade for, but in even less time than that, there's a pretty good chance this will be one of the new faces of Weekly Shonen Jump. But now I'd like to hear what you think. What was your first impression of Ichi the Witch? How does it compare to Jump's other new manga? Share your thoughts and see what everyone else has to say down in the comments. I'll pick my favorite and share it as comment of the week on my community tab. And if you'd like to help pick which manga I review next, then make sure to become a Shonen Ouji YouTube member. Becoming a channel member gives you access to custom emojis and loyalty badges, exclusive polls where I let you pick which manga I review, and gets your name in the credits of each video. Also, make sure to check out my other manga reviews, which you can find in the playlist linked right here. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.